Hello, folks. Maynard Warren. This video is about how to interpret your SPQ Gold FSA results that you've been emailed. For the remainder of this video, I'm going to refer to your SPQ Gold FSA results as just FSA results, just to try to shorten it down a little bit. But this video is all about how do you make sense of your results, because you're going to see a lot of scores, a lot of colors. It's going to look Greek to you at the beginning. My job is to lead you through this video so that you can make a few decisions on what you want to work on. And you'll find that as the last thing we talk about on this video are two types of sales call reluctance that you choose to work on. And then additionally, when we look at three other critical things, motivation to prospect, goal level around prospecting, and prospecting goal diffusion, I want to get you to give us some commentary on that as well. That's going to happen at the end of this presentation, and you'll see that shortly. So here's an overview of what we plan to get accomplished. We'll actually do an overview of your FSA assessment. You'll see your results, the different categories that you've been measured in. I'll help you with the score interpretations. You'll understand some of your prospecting preferences, and then equally as important, some areas of prospecting that right now are uncomfortable for you. And then also you'll be able to discover which of these scales and measurements in your FSA assessment are things that you feel compelled to improve on. What I'd like for you to do in your assessment that has been emailed to you, it's approximately 30-ish pages. So in each of the first, let's say 25 to 28 pages, you're going to see the names of categories, then you're going to see your particular interpretations. We're not going to go there in this video. What I want us to focus on is toward the end of your report, there are two summary pages. So those summary pages are what we're going to work with in this video. So please, if you will, in your report, turn to the two summary pages and let's get going. Also, you'll notice that there are color codes. It's like a traffic light, folks. Green, yellow, red. All of your categories that you've been scored in, you'll see a green, yellow, or red, just like a traffic light. Green is good. Give yourself a pat on the back. That's good. Yellow's precautionary. All right, we're not going to worry about those. Due to the nature of what we're talking about today, what we're going to get fixated on are your reds. Reds typically lend themselves to being an area of potential improvement for you when you score a red in an important category. That's my job, is to spell out which of these areas, scales, scores, measurements, are important, and which ones, even if you score a red in it, really doesn't matter, because there are some of those, by the way. So just remember, the categories are like a traffic light. And then additionally, one of the things that you will see as you go through this presentation is you'll see your scores. They're on a scale of 0 to 100. Every category that you get a score in will be somewhere between 0 and 100. In some cases, you want your score to be as close to 100 as possible. In other cases, you want your score to be as close to 0 as possible, because that's where the green zone is. So we've made those adjustments in the way that we've put these colors in there. So if I were you, I wouldn't get as fixated on your score numbers. I'd get more fixated on in your measurements on the color codes. Again, green, yellow, red. Additionally, you'll see out to all the way to the right on these summary pages, you'll see contrast scores where, your score is the raw score. Out to the right is the contrast score, and the contrast score is basically the one that you're looking at here in this presentation. The contrast score are the average scores of all the folks in our database that are in sales that have completed this FSA assessment. Well, that's not that meaningful for you. So what we're going to do in your actual report that you're looking at, your contrast scores are the folks in your business unit that all report to Gregory Fike. All the sales folks that are obliterating quota right now, we've taken their scores, averaged them together, and that's your contrast group. So that is meaningful. So regardless of where you are as far as percent to quota attainment, you can see how the top performers in your business unit on average scored in each of these particular categories. I think that's pretty fascinating. So with that being said, let's continue. And the way we're going to look at your report, the assessment has 6 different sections. The first one we're going to look at is the prospecting break and prospecting accelerator. That's in the sales call reluctance overview section. If you remember from the workshop, we talked about motivation and goals, and then we talked about how motivation can get pirated away into escape routes and excuses. This number here, as far as the prospecting break, and when you see your raw score, like this example person has a 42, that means that 42% of the prospecting and sales opportunities that are coming into their world are opportunities that they feel stress, tension, and anxiety around. So chances are they're predisposed to taking an escape route, one of their exit ramp behaviors. We'll talk more about that as we go through this video. So that number right there of 42 represents 42% of the opportunities that are coming into this salesperson's world. They've got some stress, some tension, some anxiety. So they're a grown human being. They know they don't have to do that activity right now, so chances are they're going to take an escape route. The accelerator category, that's the exact opposite. That's what percentage of the opportunities that are coming into my world am I comfortable with? Because when I'm comfortable with something, man, I'm doing it. I'm doing it repetitively. I'm getting after it. This example person, their score is 58. Hopefully you notice the 42 and the 58 add up to 100. That represents what is this human being doing with the 100% of energy that they brought to the job today that they could put into prospecting activities. What are they doing with that energy? Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. So let's continue. Now we're going to look at the 16 types. We did some work on this in the workshop, but here are the 16 types. We've got 8 big types, and then we've got 8 what we would call targeted types. And the 8 big types are starting here on this particular slide. We've got 6 of those 8, doomsayer, overpreparer, hyperpro, role rejection, yielder, oppositional reflex. Again, we talked about this in the workshop, but let me reiterate. One of the reasons that these types are in the big 8 types of sales call reluctance is because these are called diffused sales call reluctance types, meaning that they not only put an artificially low ceiling on how many outbound calls and attempts you can make with your prospects, but also it slants the way that you're going to follow up with them, how effectively, how quickly. Also, it dictates to a certain extent how you are emotionally when you're on a virtual sales appointment or a face-to-face sales appointment. That's why these of the 8 big types, these 6 diffuse types are quite significant. So if you score a red in any of these 6, I would ask you to give consideration to wanting to fix it. Remember, at the end of the day, I'm going to ask you to commit to fixing 2 of your sales call reluctance types. Sales call reluctance has been learned by you. Thus, it can be unlearned. I'm going to share with you how you unlearn the sales call reluctance types in session 2 that we have scheduled. So the 6 types: doomsayer, overpreparer, hyperpro, role rejection, yielder, oppositional, reflex. Those are 6 diffuse types. Those are part of the big 8. And then we've got 2 more types. Let me go ahead and mention those. They're on this slide right here. Referral aversion, that's part of the big 8. And the reason that's part of the big 8 is because it is the most costly type of sales call reluctance. When someone has an aversion to go back to their client base to ask for internal referrals or external referrals, at the end of the day, that is the most costly. The research that's been done shows that when folks have, when they're 100% commissioned, and I know you're not, but when folks are 100% commissioned and they suffer from a red score for referral aversion, it costs them between $35,000 to $40,000 of lost commissions per year. It is the most costly type of sales call reluctance. That's why it's in the big 8. And then the last type that's in the big 8 is arranging payment, which is over on the bottom right. It's close reluctance. Close reluctance. Why is that one of the big 8? Do I really have to go on about that? I don't think I do. That's where we actually make it official that somebody's going to do business with us. They take some type of action, whether it's signing some documents or placing an order, but they've taken an action to move forward in their relationship with your organization. And when folks score a red in arranging payment, it means that they're hesitating there and they're drawing things out. Those are the big 8. Now, the other 8, we call them the little 8. They can also be important. Let me just run through a few of those that could be important to you as a corporate salesperson. For instance, social self-consciousness. That's the hesitation to contact those executive level decision makers in the organizations that you're reaching out to. Perhaps they're C-level folks. Perhaps they're superintendents. Perhaps that they're directors. But folks that are high up in the organizations that you're calling on, if you score red for social self-consciousness, what that could be leading to in your career is that you're expending a lot of your prospecting motivation shooting at the wrong targets, too low in the organizations that you're reaching out to. And then another I just wanted to point out here that could be potentially important to you as a corporate salesperson is complex sales. Complex sales is all about when you're calling on companies and it's a bigger opportunity that you're working with that organization. So now you've got a few of their executives involved, you've got a few of your folks involved, and now it's starting to show some complexity in the sales process that you're working. Well, quite oftentimes, if you scored in the red zone, it means sometimes that you get a little bit frazzled, frustrated in working those sizable opportunities that have a lot of moving parts. So I wanted to point those out as well. Now, what I'd like for us to focus on are the top 2 most important categories in your FSA assessment. And they're right there: motivation and goal focus. We talked about it in the workshop. Motivation is how much energy, physically and emotionally, am I prepared to actually put into prospecting efforts on a consistent basis. We've got 3 subcategories here, folks. I'm not going to get in the weeds on those, but it's amplitude, duration, and velocity. And amplitude, duration, and velocity, that's about how much motivation do I have, how long do I have it, and how quickly do I use it. I'm not going to spend any more time on that, but motivation is a big deal. Goal level is the second most important category that influences and dictates typically how much attention do you give to proactive, consistent, persistent prospecting efforts. Goal level, 3 parts to that. What are my targets? What's my strategy? And now it's time to go and pursue those goals. It's time to get it done. It's time to pull the trigger and make it happen. So motivation and goals, without a doubt, folks, are the top 2 categories that you've got when you look at your prospecting numbers, as far as how much attention do you give to prospecting. When someone scores red in motivation and also goal focus, when your scores are in the red zone for those two categories, to me, what that means is you've been trying to hit your numbers being an order taker. Just going back to your client base, making add-on sales, that's all well and good. But when you look at really obliterating quota, boy, oh boy, do we need to reach out for those new opportunities. That's going to take motivation. It's going to take goal focus. Now, there's some other categories here that you can read about, again, in your assessment, in that 30-page report. Like, I'm not covering a lot of things in this section. That's intentional. But please feel free to read about those categories. There is one more I do want to cover here before we move off of this section, and that's prospecting goal diffusion. Prospecting goal diffusion is a salesperson that stays busy. Oh boy, are they busy. They've got they're the king or queen of multitasking. They hate to be bored. They're always on the go. So here they are with their list of things to do today. They've got about 10 or 11 or 12 things on their things to do list. One of which is, if I get around to it, I'm going to make some prospecting calls this afternoon. And then we don't get around to it. That's all because of prospecting goal diffusion and poor priority management. And it's something that's fixable. All these things are fixable, folks, that we're talking about, or that I'm talking about in this video. So you remember the schematic diagram. I just think this is important to cover it again. You've got motivation. That's one thing I'm going to be asking you about in a few minutes to make a decision on. We've got goal focus. That's another thing I'm going to ask you to make a decision on. We just talked about prospecting goal diffusion, which is when you're multitasking and you're so darn busy and it just kind of escapes your mind that you needed to focus on prospecting. And then you've got the 16 types of sales call reluctance that can pirate your motivation away into escape route behaviors and exit ramp behaviors that aren't making you a penny. That's what this diagram is all about. I think it's really important for you just to have kind of a picture in your mind of this diagram. Now, this category here, it's the last of the 6 sections. This is your attitudes toward the questionnaire. You can read about those. I'm not going to take the time to go through those, but I do want you to make decisions on these 4 areas. Which 2 types of call reluctance are you the most motivated to work on? Do you have enough motivation to do the consistent, persistent prospecting that your company is asking of you? Do you have a sufficient level of prospecting goals that's going to support you doing these activities on a consistent, regular basis? And is goal diffusion getting in your way, where you're just so darn busy that you don't get around to making those prospecting dials or sending out those prospecting emails, etc.? Again, going back to the big 8 and the little 8, when you're deciding which of the 2 types to choose for your personal area of improvement, I would use this as a guideline. Again, we've got the big 8, the little 8, but it's your career. So you've got scores in the 16 types. It's your career, so you choose the 2 that you're the most motivated to work on for the purposes of just eliminating those from your sales brain, eliminating those escape route behaviors that are caused by you having these 2 types. And by the way, in our next session, I'll show you how to get rid of these things. Here's something that I wanted to bring to your attention before I close this video down is there is a book called Relentless, written by Suzanne Dudley and Trelitha Bryant, who are folks that I work with. In this book called Relentless, it's information in there about all 16 of those sales call reluctance types. It's information in there about motivation, goal focus, goal diffusion. If you want a copy of this book, go to your manager. Your manager will reach out to me. We'll ship it to whatever shipping address is best for you, and we'll get a copy of this book to you if you feel you would read this. So that's up to you, but that's something that you can take action on if you would like to get a copy of this book. And as we close out this video, you've also been emailed the follow-up data forms. Well, the follow-up data forms are going to ask you on the first page, on the first document. It's three documents in the file that for the follow-up data forms. The first document is what's your number one type of sales call reluctance that you're choosing to work on for the purposes of eliminating that from your psyche. Let's get it gone. Let's get rid of it. Also, the second document, what's your number two type that you're choosing to work on? And then the third document, which is shown on this page, is do you feel currently that you have enough motivation to make it happen consistently? Do you feel that your goal focus is adequate and sufficient to support your consistent prospecting efforts? And then lastly, do you feel that you've got too much of this prospecting goal diffusion that's making it tough for you to stick to a routine of consistent outreach to your prospects that are in your module? So please, what I'd like for you to do there, fill out each of these three documents, save the document, and send a copy of it to your manager. Your manager is expecting it. It's going to help him or her work with you and support you as you go through this journey of cleansing your sales brain, getting rid of all these debilitating and irrational thoughts. Hopefully this was time well spent for you. If you have any questions, here's my phone number and email address. If you feel that this video was inadequate to helping you make those two decisions on which types to work on, and also if you feel that this video wasn't quite what you needed to help you make decisions on motivation, goal focus, and also goal diffusion, give me a call. I would love to have a conversation with you individually, and I could walk you through this individually. But that's on you if you feel you need that type of help. So again, to reiterate, what I'd like for you to do is to go through this document, make those decisions on what two types of sales call reluctance are you choosing to work on. Do you have enough motivation? Do you have a good enough goal focus? And can you stick to a routine, consistent prospecting schedule that's all about your goal diffusion level? Thank you for watching this video. I look forward to seeing you in our next session. Or if you feel you need help, reach out to me. I look forward to hearing from you if you feel you need a little bit extra help to make sense of the FSA assessment. Have a great day. Thank you.